The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with the sounds of hundreds of alien species. Some floated in gravity bubbles, others stood on specialized platforms, and a few existed as pure energy contained in mechanical shells. At the center of this diverse gathering sat a lone human representative, Admiral James Porter of the Earth Defense Force. Porter kept his face carefully neutral as the Grand Arbiter, a towering six-limbed being with iridescent scales and multiple eyes, addressed the assembly with a dismissive tone. The human petition for equal representation is denied, the Grand Arbiter announced, voice booming through the chamber. Their technological achievements barely qualify them for observer status, let alone voting rights. A wave of chittering laughter rippled through the assembly. Porter gripped the edges of his seat, knuckles whitening. This was the third time Earth had been rejected in as many years. The humans have not even mastered basic interstellar travel without relying on our established gate network, continued a blue-skinned diplomat from the Orion Alliance. Their fastest vessels take months to reach neighboring star systems. My species had that capability 10,000 years ago. More laughter followed. Porter noticed several representatives didn't even bother hiding their amusement, their various appendages and sensory organs quivering with what he recognized as alien expressions of humor. Their physical forms are remarkably fragile, added another counselor, this one a cloud of intelligent gas contained in a hovering metal sphere. No natural armor, minimal sensory capabilities, and a lifespan barely reaching a century. By galactic standards, they are children. Porter stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the polished floor. The chamber fell quiet. Children learn quickly, he said simply, his voice steady despite the anger churning in his stomach. The Grand Arbiter's upper limbs waved dismissively. The Council acknowledges Earth's determination. However, you must understand your place in the cosmic order. Your species is young, primitive, and frankly, lucky to even have a seat in this chamber. Most species at your development stage aren't even discovered, let alone invited to observe council proceedings. We're not asking for charity, Porter replied. Humanity has followed every protocol and regulation set forth by this council. We've established peaceful trade with 17 different species. We've contributed medical research that has benefited multiple worlds. Basic biochemistry that was discovered by most spacefaring races millennia ago interrupted a reptilian diplomat, triggering another round of laughter. The Grand Arbiter raised a limb for silence. Admiral Porter, please understand. The Council values Earth as a quaint addition to the galactic community. Your art forms are somewhat interesting, and several of your food items have become novelties in certain sectors. But equal representation, that requires significant contributions to galactic civilization. Porter stood tall, his military training evident in his rigid posture. And what would qualify as significant, Arbiter? Perhaps in another century or two, when you've developed something truly innovative rather than merely catching up to what the rest of us mastered ages ago. As Porter prepared to respond, an aide rushed to his side, whispering urgently in his ear. His eyes widened slightly before his expression returned to neutral. This session has been most educational, Porter said, gathering his documents. Earth thanks the Council for its time. As he turned to leave, one final jeer reached his ears. Do hurry home, human. At your vessel's pitiful speed, you might make it back to your planet before you expire of old age. Porter didn't react to the mocking laughter that followed him out of the chamber. The message he'd just received changed everything. Dr. Reed's Project Tesseract had reached its final phase. While the galaxy mocked humanity's technological prowess, they had no idea what Earth had been developing in secret. The cosmic joke, Porter thought as he boarded his shuttle, was about to deliver an unexpected punchline. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't exist on any official map, Dr. Anna Reed stared at the holographic model floating before her. The pulsing, geometric shape twisted in ways that made most observers dizzy. But to her, it was beautiful. The culmination of 15 years of work. Status report, she said, not taking her eyes off the model. Her chief engineer, Tom Wilson, scrolled through data on his tablet. Final calibrations are complete. The dimensional anchors are stable. Power systems are operating at 98% efficiency. And the crew? Captain Wells and his team finished their final simulation run. All green across the board. Anna nodded, finally turning away from the hologram to look at the actual vessel through the reinforced observation window. The Tesseract ship sat in a massive underground hangar, its sleek black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. At just under 500 meters long, it wasn't particularly large by modern naval standards, let alone compared to the massive alien vessels that routinely visited Earth's solar system. But size wasn't what made the Tesseract special. 15 years, Anna whispered, more to herself than to Tom. 15 years since I found that anomaly in the quantum field experiments. Everyone said I was chasing ghosts. Tom smiled. Not everyone. Some of us believed you from the start. Anna remembered those early days, when her discovery that reality had 7 dimensions instead of the commonly accepted 4 was dismissed as a calculation error. The 3 additional dimensions weren't just theoretical, they were accessible with the right technology. While the Galactic Council's species had mastered travel through conventional space, none had even detected these hidden dimensions, let alone learned to manipulate them. Admiral Porter is on his way back from the council meeting, Tom said, interrupting her thoughts. His message said they rejected our petition again. Anna wasn't surprised. Did he pass along the code? Tom nodded. Green light. We're authorized for the final phase. A soft chime from Anna's tablet indicated a new arrival. The lab's main door slid open, and Captain Marcus Wells entered. Tall with a weathered face that spoke of years in space, he carried himself with quiet confidence. Dr. Reed, he said with a nod. I understand we're moving forward. Indeed we are, Captain. Your crew ready? Born ready, he replied with a slight smile. Though I don't think any amount of simulation can fully prepare us for that. He gestured toward the ship. Anna led both men to a secure conference room, where a 3-dimensional map of the solar system hovered above the table. The Meridian Empire has been pushing at our borders for months. Intelligence suggests they view Earth as easy prey, a primitive world with worthwhile resources. They think we're defenseless, Wells said, his expression hardening. Let them think that, Anna replied. For all their advanced technology, the Meridians and all council races are blind to what we've discovered. They've built their science on 4-dimensional models because that's all they can perceive. She activated a control panel, and the holographic display changed to show the Tesseract's internal systems. This vessel doesn't just travel through space, gentlemen. It exists partially in dimensions 5, 6, and 7 simultaneously. When fully activated, it can phase through conventional matter, appear in multiple locations at once, and manipulate the dimensional state of other objects. Captain Wells studied the display. And the Meridians have no defense against this because they don't even know these dimensions exist. Exactly, Anna confirmed. We're not just playing a different game. We're playing on a completely different field that they can't even see. Tom checked his tablet again. Latest intelligence shows Meridian fleet movements consistent with invasion preparations. If they follow established patterns, we have less than a week. Anna closed the hologram with a sweep of her hand. Then let's make sure we're ready to give them a proper welcome. Outside the conference room, through layers of reinforced walls, the Tesseract waited, humanity's secret weapon in a universe that had underestimated them for far too long. The alarm blared throughout Earth Defense Headquarters at exactly 300 hours. Admiral Porter, who had only returned from the Galactic Council meeting 48 hours earlier, rushed into the command center still adjusting his uniform. Report, he ordered sharply. General Lisa Hayes, head of Earth's Orbital Defense Network, pointed to the main screen dominating the wall. Massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Sir, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel 20 minutes ago. The screen showed a sea of red dots, each representing a warship. Porter's stomach tightened as the computer calculated their numbers. 30,000 vessels. He whispered, momentarily stunned. Confirmed, sir. Meridian Empire signatures. This isn't a border patrol or a show of force. This is a full invasion fleet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's conventional defenses consisted of 50 orbital platforms and 300 fighters. Against 30,000 Meridian warships, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, announced the communications officer. Putting it through now. The main screen shifted to show a Meridian commander. Like most of their species, he had gray-blue skin stretched over a skeletal face with 4 black eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Gold armor covered his torso, decorated with the symbols of at least a dozen conquered worlds. People of Earth, the commander began, his translator converting the harsh clicks and whistles of his native tongue into English. I am Supreme War Leader Koth of the glorious Meridian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. The alien's mouthparts clicked in what intelligence reports identified as a gesture of amusement or contempt. Your options are simple. Surrender now, and your species will be permitted to live as a servant class. Resist, and we will reduce your cities to ash. You have 6 of your Earth hours to deliver your unconditional surrender. The transmission cut off. Porter looked around the command center at the grim faces of his officers. Get me a secure line to the World Council, he ordered, and contact Dr. Reed immediately. Within 30 minutes, Porter sat at the head of an emergency meeting, addressing the leaders of Earth's united government through secure holographic connections. The Meridian Empire has never bluffed, he explained. Their invasion fleet is larger than any they've deployed in recorded history. They intend to take Earth, and based on their past conquests, they will follow through on their threat to devastate our planet if we resist. What about appealing to the Galactic Council? Asked one leader. Surely they wouldn't allow this unprovoked aggression. Porter's laugh was bitter. The Council considers us barely more than animals. They won't intervene. Several Council species would likely view our conquest as a natural development, the strong consuming the weak. Then what options do we have? Another leader demanded. You've just said our defenses are hopelessly outmatched. Porter exchanged glances with Dr. Reed, who had joined the call from her underground facility. We have one option, Porter said quietly. Project Tesseract. A murmur went through the assembled leaders. Only a handful knew the details of the classified project. Dr. Reed spoke up. The Tesseract vessel is ready. We've completed all tests and simulations. Captain Wells and his crew are standing by. You're suggesting we stake the survival of our entire species on an untested weapon? A skeptical voice challenged. It's been tested, Dr. Reed responded firmly. Just not in actual combat. But the fundamental principles are sound. The Meridians, like all known alien species, cannot detect, let alone defend against 7-dimensional technology. Porter looked at each leader's face on the screen. I won't pretend this isn't a gamble, but it's the only card we have to play. After 10 minutes of heated debate, the vote was unanimous. Project Tesseract was green-lit for deployment. As the meeting ended, Porter turned to Dr. Reed. How quickly can the Tesseract reach the edge of the system? She smiled, a tense but confident expression. That's the beauty of 7-dimensional travel, Admiral. Captain Wells can be there in minutes. Porter nodded and opened a channel to the waiting Tesseract crew. Captain Wells, you have your orders. Show the Meridians exactly what humanity is capable of. Captain Marcus Wells sat in the command chair of the Tesseract, his fingers lightly tapping against the armrest. Around him, his hand-picked crew of 12 operated their stations with quiet efficiency. Every person aboard had been selected not just for their technical skills, but for their ability to comprehend and adapt to the mind-bending reality of 7-dimensional physics. Final systems check, he ordered. Lieutenant Mike Davis ran through the checklist at the operations console. Conventional drives at full capacity. Shield generators active. Life support optimal. Dimensional anchors locked and stable. From her station at the science console, Dr. Jane Foster, one of Anna Reid's most brilliant students, monitored the ship's experimental systems. 7D matrix is aligned and responsive. All dimensional interfaces are synchronized. Wells nodded, then opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. This is Tesseract. We are ready for deployment. Admiral Porter's voice came through clearly. Understood, Tesseract. You are authorized to proceed. Good hunting. Wells looked at the main view screen, which displayed Earth, beautiful and blue, growing smaller as they moved away from the planet. Set course for the Meridian Fleet, he ordered. Conventional drives until we clear the lunar orbit. Course plotted, sir, confirmed the navigator, Lieutenant Robert Lee. Estimated time to lunar orbit, 7 minutes. The ship moved smoothly through space, looking from the outside like any other human vessel, unremarkable by galactic standards, with its black hull and streamlined design giving no hint of the revolutionary technology within. As they passed the moon, Wells exchanged glances with Dr. Foster. This was the moment they had trained for countless times in simulation, but never performed in reality. Prepare for dimensional shift, Wells announced. All crew secure for transition. Everyone on the bridge adjusted the special harnesses designed to keep them anchored in conventional space when the ship began operating across multiple dimensions. Dimensional drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Foster activated the sequence. For a brief moment, everyone on board felt a strange sensation, as if their bodies existed in multiple places at once, stretched across realities never meant to intersect. Some described it later as feeling like they were looking through their own eyes from several different angles simultaneously. The sensation passed quickly as the ship's systems stabilized. The view screen changed, now showing space in a way human eyes were never designed to see. Conventional reality overlaid with shimmering layers representing the higher dimensions. Transition complete, Dr. Foster announced. 7-dimensional state achieved and stable. Wells allowed himself a small smile. Lieutenant Lee, take us to the Meridian Fleet. Full dimensional drive. Yes, sir. The Tesseract moved in ways that defied conventional physics. It didn't so much travel through space as it shifted its dimensional positioning, appearing to fold space around itself. Distance became nearly meaningless. Approaching Meridian Fleet, Lee reported barely 30 seconds later. We've covered 4.3 billion kilometers. On the view screen, the massive Meridian invasion force came into view. 30,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons capable of reducing entire cities to ash. They've detected us, reported the tactical officer, Lieutenant Helen Gray. They're scanning us with conventional sensors. Wells nodded. Let them look. What are they seeing? From their perspective, we appear to be a single unarmed human vessel, Gray replied. Their scans can't penetrate our hull to detect the dimensional technology. The communication system crackled to life as the Meridians opened a channel. The face of War Leader Koth appeared on a secondary screen, his 4 black eyes narrowing in what intelligence reports suggested was amusement or contempt. Humans, he said, mandibles clicking. You send a single vessel against our armada. Is this your answer to our ultimatum? Wells stood from his chair, facing the alien commander with calm determination. This is Captain Marcus Wells of the Earth vessel Tesseract. We are here to demonstrate why your invasion would be a mistake. The Meridian's translator converted his chittering laugh. Demonstrate? With what? Our sensors show no weapons on your primitive ship. Not all weapons can be seen, War Leader, Wells replied. You have 5 minutes to withdraw your fleet from our solar system. As the Meridian commander broke into more laughter, Wells turned to Dr. Foster and nodded. Begin power-up sequence for the dimensional manipulator. It's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of. War Leader Koth's laughter echoed through the Tesseract's bridge. His 4 black eyes gleamed with amusement as he addressed his officers, clearly visible on the communication screen. The humans send 1 ship. On. Against our mighty armada, he chittered, mandibles clicking rapidly. Record this moment. Future generations should witness such delightful foolishness. Captain Wells remained standing, his face impassive. When the alien commander finished his theatrics, Wells simply said, "Your 5 minutes started when our communication began. You now have 3 minutes remaining to withdraw." Koff's laughter stopped abruptly. "You dare threaten the Meridian Empire? Perhaps we should demonstrate our power on your pitiful vessel before we turn our weapons on your homeworld." The connection cut off. Almost immediately, tactical alerts flashed across the Tesseract's displays. "They've locked weapons on us," Lieutenant Gray reported calmly. Energy readings indicate multiple destroyer-class vessels preparing to fire. Wells nodded. "Dr. Foster, initiate Dimensional Phase 1. Foster's fingers danced across her console. Phase 1 activated. Dimensional membrane expanding. The crew felt that strange sensation again, existing in multiple places simultaneously. On the view screen, the space around the Tesseract seemed to ripple, as if reality itself was becoming fluid. "Enemy weapons firing," Gray announced. 20 Meridian destroyers had launched energy beams capable of vaporizing conventional starships. The beams streaked across space toward the Tesseract, and then did something impossible. Instead of hitting the human vessel, the energy weapons passed through it as if it wasn't there, continuing onward until they dissipated harmlessly in the void. On the bridge of the Meridian flagship, War Leader Koff stared in disbelief at his tactical display. What happened? Why did our weapons pass through the target? His weapons officer frantically checked the systems. All weapons functioning normally, War Leader. The human vessel. It's still there on our sensors, but somehow the energy beams didn't interact with it. Impossible. Koff slammed his armored fist down. Fire again. All forward batteries. Back aboard the Tesseract, Wells watched calmly as hundreds of energy beams from the Meridian fleet passed harmlessly through their ship. Phase 1 holding steady, Foster reported. The dimensional shift is working perfectly. We're partially existing in the 5th dimension, making us intangible to conventional weapons. Wells nodded. Begin Phase 2. Let's show them something they've never seen before. Foster activated the next sequence. Phase 2 dimensional manipulation activated, creating echo points now. The Tesseract began to change in ways that defied conventional physics. To the astonished Meridian fleet, the single human vessel suddenly appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously. One ship became 2, then 4, then 8, identical copies blinking into existence around their formation. On the Meridian flagship, chaos erupted. "War Leader," cried the sensor officer. "We're detecting multiple human vessels now. They're appearing everywhere throughout our formation." Koff's 4 eyes widened. "How?" "Their ship couldn't have replicated itself. Check the sensors." "Sensors functioning normally," came the panicked reply. "But they're somehow in multiple locations at once. This violates all known laws of physics." Wells watched the confusion on the Meridian vessels through the Tesseract sensors. "How many echo points are we projecting?" "Dr. Foster." 256 currently, she replied. "We can maintain this state for approximately 17 minutes before power requirements become problematic." Lieutenant Gray looked up from her console. "Sir, the Meridians are firing at our echo points. Their weapons are passing through them as well." Wells allowed himself a small smile. "Time for Phase 3. Lieutenant Lee, take us into the heart of their formation." Lee nodded. "Course plotted, sir." The Tesseract and its hundreds of echoes began moving through the Meridian fleet, passing directly through solid matter as if it wasn't there. The massive alien warships tried desperately to track and target the human vessel, but their weapons and sensors were designed for conventional space. They could see the Tesseract, but they couldn't touch it, couldn't affect it in any way. "We've reached the center of their formation," Lee announced. Wells took a deep breath. "Dr. Foster, prepare the dimensional manipulator for full activation." It's time to show the Meridians exactly what happens when seven-dimensional technology is unleashed. Foster's fingers hesitated briefly over the controls. Sir, once activated, there's no going back. The effect will cascade through their entire fleet. Understood, Wells said, his voice firm. Execute Phase 3. As Foster activated the final sequence, the Tesseract began to glow with an impossible light that seemed to bend inward on itself, the visual manifestation of 7 dimensions interacting in ways no alien species had ever witnessed. The dimensional manipulator hummed to life, filling the Tesseract's bridge with a sound that wasn't quite sound, more like the sensation of vibration felt directly in the brain rather than the ears. A soft blue-white glow emanated from the walls, ceiling, and floor as the ship fully embraced its 7-dimensional nature. Manipulator at full power, Dr. Foster reported, her voice steady despite the enormous energy she was controlling. Targeting systems online. Captain Wells stood in the center of the bridge, watching the massive Meridian fleet surrounding them on all sides. 30,000 warships, each one capable of destroying an entire city, now arranged in a defensive formation as they tried desperately to understand what they were facing. Begin selective dimensional phasing, Wells ordered. Target their weapons systems first, then propulsion. Foster's fingers moved across her console with practiced precision, initiating selective phase targeting. First wave deploying now. The Tesseract released pulses of energy unlike anything seen before in the known galaxy. These weren't conventional weapons. They were carefully calibrated dimensional disruptors that reached into the 5th, 6th, and 7th dimensions to alter the fundamental nature of physical matter. On the nearest Meridian destroyer, the effect was immediate and bewildering. Weapon emplacements simply ceased to exist in conventional spacetime. They didn't explode or melt or break. They partially shifted into higher dimensions, making them effectively non-existent in the 4 dimensions that the Meridians could perceive and interact with. From the Meridian perspective, sections of their ships were disappearing before their eyes, leaving behind strange, shimmering boundaries where solid matter used to be. What's happening? War Leader Koth demanded, his voice rising in panic as reports flooded in from across his fleet. Where are our weapons going? His chief science officer stared at readings that made no sense. There, it's still there, War Leader, but somehow also not there. Our sensors can detect traces of them, but we can't interact with them anymore. It's as if parts of our ships are being pushed partially outside of reality itself. Wells watched the tactical display as wave after wave of dimensional pulses swept outward from the Tesseract, systematically neutralizing the massive invasion force without destroying a single vessel. Status report, he ordered. 20% of enemy fleet affected, Gray reported. No return fire. They can't use their weapon systems. We're maintaining stable dimensional boundaries, Foster added. The phase effect is holding exactly as predicted in our simulations. Wells nodded. Continue the operation. Expand targeting to include their bridge command centers. Let's make sure they can't coordinate any kind of response. The dimensional attack continued, spreading through the Meridian fleet like a silent, invisible tide. Ship after ship lost their ability to fight as critical systems were pushed partially into dimensions they couldn't access. Command centers, weapon arrays, engine cores, all selectively phased into a state of dimensional limbo. On the Meridian flagship, terror replaced arrogance as War Leader Koth watched his mighty armada being systematically disabled. The humans weren't destroying his ships. They were doing something far more frightening. They were changing the fundamental rules of physical reality. Retreat, he finally ordered, his mandibles clicking rapidly in fear. All vessels capable of movement, retreat immediately. But it was too late. The dimensional wave had already affected his flagship's propulsion systems. They were dead in space, intact but helpless. Aboard the Tesseract, Foster reported, 95% of enemy fleet neutralized, Captain. The remaining 5% are at the outer edges of their formation and attempting to flee. Wells considered for a moment. Extend the dimensional field to encompass the entire fleet. Don't let any of them escape, but maintain the selective targeting. I don't want a single Meridian casualty today." "Understood, sir," Foster replied. "Extending field now." Within minutes, the last functioning Meridian vessels succumbed to the dimensional manipulation. 30,000 warships now floated silently in space, perfectly intact but completely useless. None were destroyed. None had exploded. There were no debris fields, no radiation, no fatalities at all. The entire Meridian invasion force had been defeated without a single shot fired or a single life lost. Wells opened a communication channel that would reach every vessel in the Meridian fleet. "War Leader Koth," he said calmly, "your ships are disabled but otherwise undamaged. Your life support systems will continue to function. We will provide safe passage back to your territory for all your personnel." He paused, letting his next words sink in. This was a demonstration, not an extermination. Remember that difference when you consider your future relations with Earth. Wells turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them the Meridian threat has been neutralized." The officer smiled as she relayed the message. "Tesseract to Earth Defense Command." The laughter has stopped. The Grand Council chamber, which had echoed with laughter at humanity's expense just weeks earlier, now sat in complete silence. The massive crystalline hall, designed to accommodate representatives from thousands of species, was filled to capacity. Not a single seat remained empty, an unprecedented occurrence in Council history. Admiral James Porter stood at the central podium, his posture straight and confident. Beside him, Dr. Anna Reed and Captain Marcus Wells waited calmly. The three humans seemed tiny compared to many of the alien representatives, yet every eye, optical sensor, and sensory apparatus in the chamber was fixed on them with intense focus. "The Galactic Council recognizes Earth's representatives," announced the Grand Arbiter, his tone notably lacking the dismissive edge it had carried during their last meeting. "Admiral Porter, you may address the Assembly." Porter nodded and activated the holographic projector. Above the chamber, a detailed recording of the Tesseract's encounter with the Meridian fleet appeared. The Council members watched in stunned silence as the single human vessel neutralized 30,000 warships without destroying any of them. "As you can see," Porter explained, "humanity has developed technology that operates on principles previously unknown to the galactic community. We have discovered that reality consists of 7 dimensions, not 4, and we have learned to manipulate these additional dimensions." A murmur spread through the chamber, not mockery this time, but the sound of hundreds of species trying to process information that challenged their most fundamental understanding of the universe. "Impossible," declared the representative from the Orion Alliance, the same blue-skinned diplomat who had laughed at Earth's petition weeks ago. "If such dimensions existed, our scientists would have detected them centuries ago." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "With respect, they exist whether you've detected them or not. Your inability to perceive them doesn't negate their reality." She activated a small device, and a simplified model of 7-dimensional space appeared. "We're prepared to share the basic theoretical framework with the Council. This knowledge belongs to all sentient beings." The Grand Arbiter's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of intense interest. "You would share this technology freely, after the way this Council has treated your species." Captain Wells answered, "We didn't develop this capability as a weapon, but as a new method of understanding and interacting with the universe. The Meridian Empire forced our hand by threatening our world." Porter added, "Earth has no interest in domination or revenge. We seek cooperation and mutual respect, but we will also never again allow ourselves to be dismissed as primitive or treated as a cosmic joke." The chamber remained silent for several long moments as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't developed bigger guns or faster ships. They had fundamentally changed the rules of what was possible. Finally, the Grand Arbiter spoke. "In light of these developments, the Council will reconsider Earth's petition for full membership." He paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. In fact, I move that we approve it immediately." The vote was unanimous, something that had happened only twice before in the Council's 50,000-year history. As the session concluded, representatives from dozens of species approached the humans, eager to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Many offered apologies for past dismissive treatment. Others requested to send scientific delegations to learn about seven-dimensional physics. Outside the chamber, Porter smiled at his companions. "Quite a change from our last visit." Reed nodded. "It's amazing how quickly respect appears when you challenge someone's understanding of reality." "What happens now?" asked Captain Wells. Porter looked out at the vast space station that housed the Galactic Council, a structure that had once seemed to represent humanity's insignificance, but now symbolized new possibilities. "Now," he said, "we help build a better galaxy, one where no species is judged by their age or their physical capabilities, but by their ideas and their character." As they walked toward their shuttle, representatives from across the galaxy watched with new eyes. The term human innovation suddenly carried unprecedented weight throughout the stars. The cosmic joke had delivered its punchline, and nobody was laughing anymore. Instead, they were listening.